6 shocking hiking horror stories that haunt you at midnight forever. The forest was a black void, swallowing everything in its path. When Sarah stepped onto the path of dread, it was her favorite hiking trail, sun-dappled and free of human souls. But today, it felt like the trees were whispering secrets. Each crack of a twig underfoot sounded like a gunshot in the oppressive silence. The air was thick, heavy with a tension that made her skin crawl. The unsettling sensation of being watched wrapped around her like a fog, thickening with each step. She shook it off, telling herself it was just the thrill of being alone in the wild. But this time felt different, sinister. Deep in the woods, she came across an old, faded sign. Lost hiker site, proceed with caution. The letters were chipped and smeared, as though the forest had attempted to erase its own history. Goosebumps raced down her arms. She had heard stories about hikers who vanished, tales of a mysterious spirit that lured them deeper into the darkness. Her heart raced, thrumming in her chest like a trapped bird. The wind howled, picketing through the trees, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah could have sworn she heard a woman's voice calling her name soft and sweet, yet laced with an icy fear that froze her blood. The strange occurrences began to pile up like fallen leaves. A shadow barely out of sight, a distant echo of laughter that cut through her thoughts. Before long, the sun began to fade, throwing eerie shadows that whipped together grotesque shapes on the forest floor. The air felt electric, charged with an impending doom. Sarah's breath quickened as that feeling of eyes lurking in the dark resumed its relentless grip on her. She turned back, but the path felt foreign, twisting in unnatural directions like a creature toying with its prey. Panic clawed at her throat, a tightness that made it hard to swallow. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as she steadied herself to take a breath, echoes of frantic footsteps circled her, laughter dancing on the wind like a mocking bird. Help! Somebody help! The voice was frantic, but the cold emptiness of the woods wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she spun around, heart hammering louder than the echoing cries. She was not alone, not anymore, and dread flooded her veins. What had happened to the lost hikers? Were they still out there, their spirits entwined in the tall trees, desperately waiting for someone to hear their call? As night fell with a sudden chill, she could feel a cold breath on the back of her neck, and a jolt of fear washed over her. What would she find if she plunged deeper into the darkness? There was no turning back now. The wind howled through the pine branches, shrieking like a banshee, drowning out the sound of Sarah's own terrified breaths. She dug her heels in, balancing between the instinctive urge to flee and the magnetic pull of that eerie voice. The plea echoed in her mind, warping into a siren song that clawed at her heart. Help me, it seemed to chant, luring her further into the abyss. Reining in the panic, Sarah strained her ears, trying to locate the source. Was it real, or was the forest playing tricks on her? Shadows danced in her periphery, flickering like flames just out of reach. She dared to step closer to the voice, each step a battle against the fear clawing at her thoughts. But as she moved deeper into the forest, the darkness swallowed her, wrapping tighter with each heartbeat. Straining her eyes, she caught sight of something up ahead, a flicker of pale light breaking the oppressive gloom. She took a chance, her heart hammering as she raced toward it. Is anyone there? She called, her voice trembling. The light brightened, illuminating a small clearing tangled with bramble and overgrown weeds. And then she saw it, a ragged figure hunched over, wrapped in tattered clothes, its hair hanging in wild locks. The figure turned, revealing a face that was both hauntingly familiar and terrifyingly wrong, a lost hiker from years past, or perhaps a specter of the forest. Help me, the figure croaked, its voice a twisted echo of the one Sarah had followed. Please, instinctively, Sarah took a step back, a chill coursing through her veins. The figure reached out, fingers long and skeletal, the air around it thickening with a suffocating dread. Don't go. You must stay, it whispered, the voice ebbing into a strange harmony with the rustling leaves, luring her deeper into despair. No, I can't, she shouted, and as she turned to run, the ground shifted beneath her. The forest let out a screech, branches snapping like bones around her, the trees closing in as if they were alive, shrieking in anger at her refusal. The pulling sensation intensified, like invisible hands grasped at her limbs, dragging her back toward the specter. Sarah dug her heels into the forest floor, tearing at the earth as she fought to escape the grasp of darkness closing in. Each frantic breath felt sharper, her heart now a rhythmic drum beating out a frantic warning. The air buzzed with unworldly energy, encircling her in a grip that promised to trap her forever. Join us, Sarah, the whisper came again, floating through the shadows, scratching at her mind. Stay with us with sheer will. She spun toward the path, adrenaline shooting through her like wildfire. She sprinted back the way she had come, the branches clawing at her clothes, the echoes of laughter reverberating on her heels. Her thoughts raced. There had to be a way out, a safety. But the deeper she ran, the more the forest warped and twisted, turning familiar trails into an endless maze of terror. The sun wouldn't rise again in this haunted gloom. A cold gust of wind whipped past, carrying the sweet scent of decay. Panic surged, and in that moment, she felt it, the presence closing in behind her. What had she awakened? Was she just another lost soul, trapped in this endless night? With one final burst of energy, she broke free into the clearing where the sign hung, a warning of caution now etched into her memory. But the trees closed in around her, pressing against her back like an iron wall. What lay beyond the sign? Would she find the truth or become another chapter in this gruesome saga? Just as she flung her gaze ahead, a flash illuminated the darkness, a pair of eyes. But what she saw next twisted her stomach with fear. Sarah? It whispered again, and this time the voice was her own. Something like a thunderous heartbeat echoed in Sarah's mind, drowning out everything except her name twisting on the air. Each time the ghostly figure whispered it, tendrils of fear snaked down her spine, digging deeper with every heartbeat. This can't be happening, she thought, heart racing like a wild animal trying to escape a trap. She stared into the darkness where those haunting eyes glimmered. They were familiar, almost comforting. Yet they filled her with a sense of dread that made her stomach twist. Was it truly her? Or some dark reflection? A fragment of the forest that sought to ensnare her? Panic surged again, and without a moment's hesitation, Sarah turned to face the path ahead. Just keep moving, she told herself, even as the forest whispered around her, the air thick with malevolent tension. Each step felt like running through molasses as shadows sprung to life, reaching for her with clawed hands, brushing against her skin. A cold sweat broke across her forehead as she pushed forward, desperately searching for the road she thought she had seen earlier. Her feet stumbled over uneven ground, vines tangling around her ankles like serpents. She cast a quick glance over her shoulder, expecting to see the specter pursuing her, but saw nothing. Just the dense, suffocating blackness. Please, just let me out of here, she gasped. The desperate plea echoed through the trees, swallowed by the void. Every instinct screamed at her to stop, to listen to the voice that beckoned her. Did surrendering make her weak? Would she join that haunting figure? The thought jolted her, but she shoved it aside. She had to escape. They needed her for what? She didn't know, but she felt that slicing urge deep within her in the distance. Something caught her eye, a shimmer of moonlight breaking through the treetops. Hope flared, lighting the dark corners of her mind. She darted toward it. The shimmer grew brighter, illuminating a narrow path that seemed almost inviting. She hesitated, anxiety gripping her throat. Was this a way out or a trap set by the spirit? But she could still hear that voice, echoing deeply, insistently inviting her back into the forest's embrace. The thought sent spikes of cold fear shooting through her, spurring her forward. "Keep moving, Sarah," she urged herself, lungs burning as she pushed through the underbrush, her legs screaming for relief. The whispers morphed into cries, a cacophony of lost souls, each note a reminder of her mortality. Where was everyone? Hadn't someone been hiking with her? What twisted fate had led her here, alone and lost? But just as she thought she had found her footing again, the ground bucked beneath her. Suddenly, the earth gave way, sending her tumbling down into darkness. She landed hard, hitting the damp earth with a dull thud. Stars danced in her vision as she gasped, trying to shake off the shock. The world spun around her, but as she blinked away the haziness, dread filled her chest. She wasn't alone. A circle of glowing eyes blinked back at her from the shadows, their luminescence slicing through the darkness. Sarah, they all called her name in unison, their voices a haunting harmony that wrapped around her like a shroud. As she scrambled to her feet, heart racing wildly, she realized she was surrounded borne from the echoes of the forest, each figure reflecting something of her own fear, pain, and loss. In this cavern, she stood at the heart of their restless cycle, each gaze pleading with her. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, her voice cracking in the chilling air. And then, a figure stepped forward, a faceless silhouette cloaked in despair. "To find peace, Sarah, you must know the truth." The words hung in the air, lingering like the fog around her, a promise that warred against her instinct to flee. What truth? Clawed at her stomach, root deep, she inched closer, drawn by an unnameable force. As she stood before that shadowy figure, an overwhelming realization washed over her. What had she stumbled into? The forest wasn't just a place of terror. It was a mirror reflecting everything she hid from herself. She could feel the pulsating energy around her, the whispers growing louder, demanding attention. Would she uncover the truth of her own darkness or be consumed by it? Run or face it? The choice hovered like a blade over her heart, a precipice on which she stood. Before she could decide, the voices swelled to a deafening crescendo, drowning out her thoughts, and then they fell silent, leaving only the chilling sounds of her own pulse thrumming in the dark. Sarah, came the whisper again, softer this time, wrapping around her in an eerie embrace. The night hung heavy with uncertainty, and before she could process the gravity of her situation, fear gripped her once more. What would happen next? Would she break the cycle or become another echo in the forest's haunting song? As the darkness receded, one thought surged. Whatever truth lay before her, it wouldn't be what she expected. Whatever awaited, she had to confront it. Then came a blinding flash of light, and all at once, everything around her shifted. What awaited her next in this sinister dance? The light pulsed like a heartbeat, and in an instant, Sarah found herself standing in a clearing she recognized, though everything felt distorted. The vibrant green of the trees morphed into shades of sharp gray and shadow, twisting as if the very essence of the forest were alive, breathing and watching. "Sarah." The voices returned, softer but more urgent, as if they were guiding her. She turned slowly, scanning the gloom, and her breath hitched as she caught sight of the trees. They now resembled armored sentinels, their branches gnarled and twisting like claws, closing in around her. Where am I?" Her voice broke, trembling as she fought her rising panic. The clearing was supposed to be a haven, but instead, it felt like the eye of a storm, quiet, yet teeming with menace. "It's not just the forest," a voice whispered from the shadows, deep and resonant, echoing in her core. It seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere, seeping into her mind. "It's within you." The words struck hard, reverberating through her thoughts. Memories began to surface, flickers of her life before this nightmare. Times of joy, moments of despair, secrets she had buried deep. They played like a movie reel, each scene more vivid than the last, pricking at her conscience. "Face it, Sarah. This is your trial," the voice persisted. "The truth lies at the center of your fear." With her heart pounding in her chest, she stepped forward, feeling the gaze of the haunting eyes around her settle heavy on her shoulders. Each step brought a flash of familiarity: her childhood home, her first heartbreak, the day her father left. How could this be? The forest was pulling her apart, revealing layers of her psyche she thought she'd long forgotten. But there was something else, an unfamiliar urgency, a need to find closure in the past. Suddenly, the murky edges of the clearing tightened and twisted, revealing a gruesome tableau ahead. Figures loomed, cloaked in darkness, faces obscured except for their eyes, which burned with an unholy lust for knowledge. "Join us," they murmured. "Be with us or be lost." Sarah staggered back, memories colliding with dread. "What do you mean, lost?" A chill wrapped around her, the very concept of loss taking form as shadows stretched and twisted into specters of her regrets. The shadowy figures surged forward, and with them came a blizzard of voices, each brandishing a threat, a question, a memory unspoken. "You can't run forever," they taunted. Yet as their voices clouded her mind, clarity flickered in her heart. "I want to be lost," Sarah shouted, defiance replacing fear. She took a deep breath, the rush of air empowering her. "I am not my past." With that proclamation, the clearing shimmered, distorting again. The figures trembled, their faces contorting in anger and anguish, their expressions revealing the truth she had feared. They weren't merely reflections of her past. They were manifestations of her guilt, her pain. "Face us," they cried, the pitiful wails cutting through the night. "Or remain trapped." The ground shook beneath her with their fury, but in the heart of the tempest, Sarah found a flicker of light, a smoldering ember of hope that pushed her forward. She had to confront her fears, but just how much of herself would she need to sacrifice? As the eerie light enveloped her, forcing her involuntarily toward the center of the clearing, her heart raced. What would she discover when she faced the darkest parts of herself? The shadows beckoned, and Sarah felt herself drifting closer, the boundary between fear and understanding blurring. Would this be her salvation or her undoing? As the figures drew nearer, a question hung in the air, stark and menacing. Could the truth truly set her free, or would it only bind her deeper in this web of haunting shadows? The shadows danced wildly around her, a whirlwind of anguished faces moaning unceasingly, their mouths agape as if begging for release. Sarah's heart raced as she braced herself, feeling the grip of fear tighten around her throat. She took another step forward, swallowing hard, the ground beneath her pulsing like an anxious heartbeat in sync with her own. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, trying to pierce through the fog of despair that cloaked the clearing. "I'm done being afraid." The figures halted, their ghostly forms flickering like candle flames in the wind. A tall silhouette detached from the crowd, a figure more defined than the others. Its eyes glimmered with an unsettling intensity, locking onto hers with an unnerving familiarity. "Your truth is what we seek," it spoke, its voice a haunting echo of her own. "Face the darkest recesses of your mind if you wish to break free. Only then will you understand." Her pulse thundered in her ears as she recognized the voice. It was her own, mingled with the judgment of every mistake she had ever made. The specters around her began to whisper the moments of her past, each memory sharper than the last. The first time she had lied, the day she had walked away from love, and the arguments with her father echoed in a chilling cacophony. "Stop it." She clutched her head, faltering as their words wormed deeper into her psyche. Each memory was a shackle, binding her tighter, pulling her back to a time when everything had gone wrong. "We are your failures," they hissed, closing in, darkness swelling around her. "And we will consume you unless you confront us. Accept us or be lost forever." Panic surged through her, and in that moment, the ground beneath her pulsated violently, thrusting her to her knees. The figures loomed closer, their faces blurring together into a grotesque mass of disappointment and despair. In that clamoring mass, a single emotion broke through: pure rage. Rage at herself for the choices made, for running away, for the hurt she had caused others. "I won't let you win," she screamed, digging her fingers into the earth. Desperation fueled her fight, a solid resolve replacing the chaos of despair. I refuse to be defined by what I fear or regret. With that cry, the clearing flickered again. The shadows stumbled, their forms wavering like mirages. The rush of warmth surged through her again, amplifying her defiance into something primal. For the first time, she felt empowered, her heart no longer heavy with fear, but throbbing with strength. Face the truth, the main figure implored, its voice now softer, almost pleading. Let it wash over you. Sarah focused on the darkness within, a swirling tempest of her past. It roared and hissed, begging to swallow her whole. But now she saw it differently. These were not merely burdens but lessons, experiences that shaped her into who she was today. Each flicker of regret sparked insight, pain transformed into wisdom. Closing her eyes, she took a deep breath, feeling the shadows shift, adapting to her newfound strength. What if, she murmured to herself, maybe they weren't here to consume her, but to teach her. Like a tidal wave, a rush of clarity consumed her. I've lived these moments, but they won't define me. The dark figures shrieked in protest, their forms beginning to dissolve into the mist. The clearing pulsed with light as shadows retreated. Each fragment of regret released from her clutches floated away, freed from the burden of her soul. As the final wails faded, Sarah opened her eyes to the echoing silence. The clearing, once menacing, was now flooded with a soft, golden light, warm and inviting. But just as relief washed over her, she noticed a lingering silhouette in the shadows, a shape lingering just beyond the light, its eyes gleaming with intrigue. Even if you have faced your past, there are other truths waiting to be discovered, it teased, a darkness compelling yet strangely alluring. Sarah's chest tightened, and the calm feeling slipped away like sand through her fingers. The journey was far from over. What other truths would she have to face? As the light flickered, she stepped back, dread creeping in again. Was she ready to confront it all, or would the shadows reclaim her? A chill swept through the clearing, and Sarah shivered, feeling the weight of that lingering silhouette press against her. It felt like a storm brewing on the horizon, dark, uncertain, and terrifying. Who are you? She called out, her voice wavering despite her determination. The figure stepped forward, a wave of shadow and intrigue, and for a moment, the golden light behind Sarah dimmed, as if the warmth hesitated in the presence of this new entity. I am what you haven't yet understood. The voice resonated, smooth yet jagged, coiling around her thoughts. I am the question you've been avoiding, the truth you didn't dare confront. Her heart raced as she inched backward, every instinct screaming to flee, but her feet felt rooted to the ground. The figure's eyes glinted like shards of glass, reflecting something deep within her. What truth? She stammered, struggling to maintain her composure. I am the fear of what you might become if you don't accept every part of you, both light and dark. It whispered, each word laced with an ominous clarity. You took a step forward, but are you ready to take the next? Sarah swallowed hard, desperation twisting in her gut. What happens if I refuse? Refusal will chain you to a cycle of regret. You will wander in shadows again, forever questioning why you didn't embrace your own darkness. The reality of its words rolled over her like waves crashing upon jagged rocks. A moat of doubt surrounded her, the separation between the past and her present crumbling. But I just faced my past, she insisted, more to convince herself than to argue. I learned from it. The golden light pulsed warmly, yet shadows still nestled in the edges, intertwining with her comfort. Did you? Or did you merely sweep it under a velvet rug? The figure leaned closer, its shadow swallowing the light in an overwhelming tide. To be whole, you must confront what you've buried. Panic surged, pounding in her ears as memories flashed like lightning through the storm of her mind. The mistakes she thought she had buried surged back to the surface, roaring as they clustered together. Each moment a regret, each failure a ghost that tangled in her brush with freedom. Let me show you, it urged, its form flickering unpredictably like the dying flame of a candle. Step into the shadows with me. Fight the darkness and learn that embracing your truth is the only path to liberation. The choice is yours. Step forward, or live forever shackled to your fears. Pressure built in her chest, reminding her of every scream swallowed, every tear shed. It felt so heavy, but the knot of rage that had sparked earlier flickered back, feeding her courage. "I won't be afraid anymore," she yelled, surprising even herself. The figure froze, a sly smile creeping across its features. "Then let us begin." Before she could process its words, the world around her shifted. The ground beneath her shimmered and quaked, and she fell through a swirling vortex of shadow and light, her body spinning as the memories raced past her eyes. Faces of friends, lovers lost, and echoes of laughter melted into a cacophony of feelings, the good and the bad blending seamlessly into one. When she landed, it was in a new realm, a twisted reflection of the clearing she had just escaped. Here, every regret materialized as tangible darkness, whispering threats of isolation and despair that crawled over her skin. "Welcome to your reflection," the figure said, now looming alongside her. Its voice was a blend of menace and charm. "Let us see which truths you will finally face." Fear clawed at Sarah's throat, but challenge ignited a fire deep within her. She was no longer a victim. She was a warrior. Each step deeper into this realm felt electrifying, the shadows cracking with intensity. What awaited her in this place of dark truths? With every heartbeat echoing in the silence, she whispered to herself, "I'm ready." And then, the shadows lunged. What awaited her on the other side of this raw confrontation? The shadows lunged, a thick wave of darkness wrapping around Sarah as she barely managed to brace herself. Fear rushed through her veins, but deep down, she felt the wild spark of defiance. She wasn't just going to stand and be consumed. With a swift motion, she ripped her gaze from the encroaching figures, recognizing that this was only a reflection, the essence of her own fears, long neglected. "I've faced worse," she shouted, her voice unwavering amidst the chaos. The shadows shifted, hesitant as though her words stung them. "Is that so?" the figure beside her taunted. There was a glint in its eyes, anticipation dancing in the air. "Then let us see just how brave you really are. Every regret, every failure, they're all yours to confront here." Sarah felt a cold sweat trickle down her spine. Suddenly, the darkness parted, revealing a scene that made her heart drop. It was her past, the night she had lost everything she cared about. She stood on a cliff, overlooking a raging sea, thunder echoing in the distance. A familiar figure stood at the edge. "Sarah, don't do it." It was a voice she hadn't heard in years, filled with panic and desperation. A chill crept up, enveloping her in an icy grip. "Jake," she breathed, stepping forward, hesitant yet compelled. Memories of the moment, so vivid, clawed their way back. The fight, the heartbreak, the moment she had felt utterly defeated. "Why did you let it happen?" The shadow hissed, shifting into the form of Jake, his face distorted in agony. "You turned your back when I needed you the most. Are you really ready to face your truth?" With each accusation, Sarah's heart twisted painfully, air constricting around her lungs. But behind that pain, a fire ignited. She wasn't that girl anymore. "I was scared. I didn't know how to help," she yelled back, tears pooling in her eyes. "But I've grown. I've changed." The shadow swirled violently, engulfing her in darkness, but she pressed against it, digging deep into her newfound strength. "I'm not running from you anymore. I own my past, every mistake I made." As her voice boomed, the sea's roar shifted, the waves calming in response. The tension in the air began to dissolve, replaced with a flickering light, warm and golden, radiating through the darkness. "Now you understand," echoed the figure beside her, its voice vibrating like a chorus of truth. The shadows twisted, retreating like mist, and suddenly, Sarah was enveloped in a gentle glow. But it wasn't over. Far from it. The ground trembled once more, a harbinger of something deeper lurking in this reflection. A new shadow rose from the darkness, towered in size, its presence suffocating. It carried a weight that felt familiar yet terrifyingly foreign. "Who else do you wish to confront, Sarah?" It sneered, a voice like thunder rumbling through her. "No, no, No panic clawed at her mind, her heart racing as she realized that this shadow felt like the embodiment of her deepest fears, her insecurities, the ones she had masked beneath the brave front. A lump formed in her throat as it stepped closer. Will you embrace me? Or will you cower and allow me to consume you like before? Waves of doubt crashed over her again, threatening to drown her in despair. She stood her ground, trembling but resolute. I refuse to let fear define me, she shouted defiantly. Show me what you have. The shadow lunged forward, and for a chilling moment, the universe held its breath. As darkness rushed towards her, Sarah felt her heart pound against her ribcage, echoing the choice she had to make. Would she stand firm against this embodiment of everything she feared and unleash her true self, or was she doomed to repeat the past? In that defining moment, she reached out, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. What truths waited for her in this final battle against fear? Was any part of her truly ready to embrace the shadows? The shadow surged forward, a tidal wave of darkness, and Sarah felt its overwhelming presence crashing against her confidence. It coiled and writhed, whispering the silent screams of her insecurities. She staggered back, her resolve wavered like the flickering light around her. Look at all you've failed to achieve, it rumbled, voice echoing as if coming from the heart of a tempest. You think you can stand tall? You're nothing without your bravado. Each choice you made led you here, to this darkness. Shaking, Sarah clenched her fists. Memories flooded her mind like a storm. The failures, the broken friendships, the opportunities she let slip away. Each one felt like a dagger twisting in her gut. I didn't know how, she admitted, her voice faltering, but only for a moment. I was lost. But that doesn't mean I have to be defined by it. The shadow hesitated, momentarily caught off guard. She saw it for what it was, an echo of her own self-doubt. No more than a puppet made of the fears she hadn't faced. Heart pounding, Sarah whispered fiercely, "You have no power over me unless I give it to you." With that, she pressed forward, her hands outstretched towards the looming figure. The ground vibrated under her feet, the weight of the moment bearing down on her. But Sarah stood firm, summoning every ounce of strength she could muster. "I embrace my failures," she shouted, her voice reverberating with newfound courage. "I own them. They are part of my journey." The shadow recoiled, its grip loosening as if it couldn't withstand the power of her declaration. "No," it screeched, the sound a hideous blend of anger and fear. "You can't accept me. You're nothing without your regrets." "Watch me," she retorted, her heart flickering with a fiery resolve. The golden light swelled, burning brighter as she banished the shadows from her heart. "I can choose to grow, to learn. I am not afraid anymore." In that moment, the tide began to shift. The darkness shrank, dissipating like mist against the rising sun. Sarah felt a surge of clarity. With every inch the shadow retreated, a sense of liberation washed over her. She wasn't that lost girl anymore. She was a warrior, forged in the fires of struggle and self-discovery. But as the last slivers of darkness faded, a more chilling presence crept into the air. Shadows formed again, but these were not of her past. They felt different. This was a force entirely her own making, a reflection of her deepest desires and hopes. It called to her, a whisper that promised both freedom and chaos. "What else lies within you, Sarah?" it purred, a voice sweet like honey yet laced with danger. Sarah's heart raced anew, adrenaline gripping her tightly. "What do you want from me?" The figure danced in the twilight, flickering, teasing her with visions of what could be power, acceptance, and unfettered joy. Yet it exuded a heavy weight, a consequence that felt too great to bear. "Will you risk it all?" it beckoned, eyes glimmering with dark temptation. "Or will you play it safe forever?" Caught between unfolding possibilities, Sarah felt the pull, uncertainty grappling for control. Would she dare to confront this new shadow and embrace her hopes, no matter the price? Or retreat to the safety of her previous fears? The choice loomed over her like a storm cloud, heavy and electric. What awaited her on the other side? Could she truly own her future as bravely as she faced her past? The figure twisted in the shadows, its shape morphing into something both alluring and terrifying. You can become more than you've ever dreamed. It whispered, voice shimmering like the surface of a calm lake, hiding the depths beneath. But at what cost? Everything you desire comes with a price, dear Sarah. Embrace me, and you shall know true power, but lose yourself in the process. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. This was not just about overcoming fear anymore. It was choosing between the essence of who she was and the intoxicating allure of everything she might become. With each fleeting pulse of light, she felt the temptation wrap around her heart like a vine, tightening its grip. But I might lose myself. She breathed, realization piercing through her bravado. The thought made her chest constrict, a lump translating uncertainty to fear. Lose yourself? The shadow laughed, a sound like breaking glass. What you think of yourself is just a mask, Sarah. It's time to shed it. Why hold back when the world is laid at your feet? Think about those who have wronged you, those who have doubted you. What if you could make them see you, truly see you? What if, in their eyes, you could transform the narrative? You would be unstoppable. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, doubt battling resolve. She had spent so many years fighting the darkness of her past, learning to own her failures. Now, here in this moment of temptation, a fear more primal surged. The risk. What if she stepped too far and could never return? Around her, the hues of twilight deepened, shadows lengthened, enveloping her in a cloak of uncertainty. You can't just stand there, frozen in fear, the shadow urged, drawing closer. Choose, Sarah. Become the architect of your own fate, or send yourself back into the depths of your old self, to live in regret. She took a shaky step back, breath caught deep in her throat as the ground beneath her twisted. I faced my darkness. I reclaimed my voice. What more could you offer? She shouted, her voice echoing defiantly into the shifting shadows. But doubt flickered again. The grand visions were intoxicating, each painted with dreams brighter than anything she dared to imagine. They called to her heart, resonating with the part of her that longed for recognition, the one buried deep under layers of fear and hesitation. Everything you've wanted, Sarah. Why settle for a mere light when you can wield the fire? What if the fire consumes me? The words tumbled from her before she could stop them. The figure paused, its glow shimmering like a heat haze. Just think for a moment. Every great figure in history faced risks, made sacrifices. Success demands surrender. The voice was silk on her skin, pulling her closer to the brink. With every heartbeat, she felt the boundaries of her fear stretch and twist. Could she risk everything she built for something greater? Would the price be too high? Or was this her chance to rewrite her story entirely? The shadows danced, swirling around her as if considering her thoughts. Step forward and know your strength. Or linger and forever wonder what could have been. The air thickened, almost palpable with expectation. As she stood there, torn, the fabric of reality around her began to curl, drawing her near to that pregnant silence before a storm. And then, a crack of thunder echoed in her mind. Would she step forward into a new existence or fall back into the familiar confinement of her fears? Time slipped away as silence swallowed her whole. What awaited her on this treacherous path? Could she emerge unscathed, or would the cost of her desires reveal a darker fate? The darkness pulled back, revealing the taut silence of what felt like eternity. Sarah stood on the precipice of change, heart hammering in her chest, the bittersweet taste of fear and excitement mingling on her tongue. Around her, shadows writhed, flickering like dying embers, pulling at the edges of her consciousness. Step forward, the figure urged, voice lingering in the charged air. Embrace the fire of who you could become, or remain in the shadows, an echo of your former self. Her breath hitched. She thought of everything she faced, the regrets, the darkness. In battling her past, she had unearthed strength she didn't know she possessed. But now she had a choice that could lead her to uncapped potential or total annihilation. But the cost, the words trembled in her throat as doubt surged. The figure's form shifted just slightly, a wisp of darkness hovering closer. What you wish to live for should outweigh the fear of what you might lose. Face it, everything you desire comes through acceptance and resilience. It's time to reclaim not just your fears but your destiny. The shadows stirred, faces of regret and despair fading into something unfamiliar, something new. Adrenaline stirred within, lighting fires of purpose that danced steadily in her chest. She thought of all the moments she had allowed herself to be governed by those fears. The heartache, the pain. No more, she whispered, pushing against the weight of uncertainty. I will not let them dictate my path any longer. As Sarah stood firm, feeling her roots sink deeper into the ground, she thought about the faces, the laughter, and the connections she lost along the way, but also the very essence of herself she wanted more than anything to reclaim. I'm ready to own all that I am, both light and dark. The shadow figure flickered, momentarily retreating as if taken aback, but came back with renewed strength. You'll find it is not so easily done. Many have tried, many have failed, maybe, but I'm different, she declared, tapping into the depths of her growing power and determination. She felt the warmth swirl around her, combining lessons from her past with an unwavering sense of self. I dare to confront it all, the fear, the past, and the person standing before her in shadows. In an instant, she closed the distance. The figure lunged, tendrils of darkness sweeping forth. But this time Sarah stood resolute, embracing the encroaching shadows like a lover, not an enemy. She wouldn't run. She wouldn't hide. An epic clash of emotions surged within her, and a mighty roar erupted from her lips, drowning out the whispering doubts. I am me. The air crackled as she focused, her heart igniting with fierce determination. With an explosive burst, she thrust her hands outward, unleashing a tempest of radiant light, a light that grew with each burst of her courage, illuminating the darkness surrounding her. In the wave of brightness, shadows melted, revealing their true forms, reflections of her own fears and regrets. You will no longer bind me, she shouted, expelling the shadows, replacing them with vibrant light that danced with every pulse of her strength. In that moment, something shifted within her, coursing through her like electric fire. Each regret turned to ashes, and from those ashes new possibilities arose. It was as if she saw herself through each shadow, understanding them, knowing they were a part but not the whole. They had no control over her anymore. When silence fell, she stood taller. The ghostly figure looming before her now seemed diminutive, and its shadows flickered, fading into the grounds of acceptance. You have chosen well, it whispered, finally dissipating. You have faced your truth. Sarah breathed deeply, the air sweet and fragrant with freedom. The darkness was still there, but it danced now, almost playfully, as if they were no longer antagonists but allies in the journey of growth and self-discovery, that path she was resolutely prepared to walk. With each step forward, the forest around her transformed, blooming with life, vibrant greens and blues, reflection of the possibility she had embraced. Nothing was lost. Everything was reborn anew, glimmering like morning dew on a fresh flower. She ascended beyond the shadows, beyond the fear, toward a promising, unyielding light, and as the first rays of dawn broke through, piercing the treetops, she felt a fulfillment wrap around her like a warm blanket. She was Sarah, a warrior, a survivor, architect of her fate, no longer lost, but found. What lies ahead? She whispered to the waking world, the future full of pathways shimmering before her. And with that, she stepped boldly into the light. And if you found this story thrilling and heart-pounding, now is the time to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of our exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this incredible community. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this emotional conclusion. What are your thoughts? What do you think Sarah will do next? Plus, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling finish. They'll thank you later, guaranteed. The time is now.